Well, Benita, it's still grim looking at those infection rates and death rates here in the United Kingdom. Yesterday, they announced that 31,587 people have died from COVID-19. That's 346 new deaths on Saturday alone, and 215,260 confirmed cases now exist. But remember again that testing is relatively low still, so the real number is probably much, much higher than that. Importantly, though, Britain does seem to be flattening that curve on the graph of new infections, and that seems to have been a result of the lockdown taking effect. Britain has confirmed that the R level here is now between 0.5 and 0.9. That's the number of people each positive person can infect themselves. Keeping that number below 1 is key to stopping the exponential spread of the disease. But speaking at a recent Downing Street press conference, Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab warned that the virus is not beaten yet. And that seems to be the government's message, that even though the graph is coming down, those numbers are still very high. And the only thing stopping them from climbing ever higher at the rate they used to is, in fact, people staying in their homes and making sure that the virus can't spread in its usual way.
As you say, grim numbers indeed. Nonetheless, Jonathan, the government seems ready to announce some changes, but will they start immediately, and how extensive are they likely to be?
Yes, indeed. There's a speech this afternoon from Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister. It'll be a pre-recorded speech, but he also has a cabinet meeting today and a COBRA meeting. And these will be perhaps to get those new ideas that he'll be announcing rubber-stamped. The Prime Minister will use that address to the nation this evening to outline a roadmap for the second phase, rather than to announce the immediate easing of measures, though. Some of those new measures that he may announce will likely be for changes that will take place in a few weeks. It's fully expected that there'll be another 3 weeks of the lockdown. There'll be that extension announced. But after that, and perhaps during that, some changes may take place. Garden centres could reopen. Britain is going through an extremely hot summer, unusually, with many people stuck at home. They've quite wanted to get on with work in their gardens if they're lucky enough to have one. People may be allowed to use open spaces more. There is also the idea that people will be allowed to go and exercise more than once a day. Currently, the rules allow them only to exercise once a day outside the home. In some weeks, schools might be allowed to slowly reopen, but that won't happen yet. And there may be advice as well on wearing face masks on public transport. The government has previously said that there was no evidence that face masks would help. Now it seems that they may be suggesting that they should be used in close, confined spaces like buses and tubes. There's some suggestion that there may be an encouragement to people who can return to work safely to do so, but only if they can keep to the rules on social distancing. Interestingly, polling has shown that the majority of British people don't feel this is the right time to lift the restrictions, and they don't feel that there should be a loosening of those rules at this stage. We're told that the new system will operate on a terrorism-style warning system. We currently have a system here for assessing terrorism threats in the UK, which is monitored by intelligence. And similarly, the new COVID system would be administered by a joint biosecurity centre, and they'd be responsible for detecting local spikes of the disease, and then ministers would be able to increase restrictions where needed to help reduce the infection rates. And also, there is talk of introducing quarantining in British airports for passengers arriving from abroad, including British nationals returning to the country, and that could start imminently, though, of course, again, many countries did that long ago.